Rock and roll.
Ready?
I'd like to start the May 7th, 2020 Wilton Town Board meeting. Let's start it with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Who's got the mug?
I can't stand up.
Pledge allegiance to
To
the
the
flag
flag
of
of
the
the
United
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We apologize to our town residents who are around because of our. Sorry. Can we do a roll call?
Supervisor Lant,
Here.
Deputy Supervisor McCachran,
Here.
Councilman Bogardus,
Present.
Councilwoman Culligan,
Present.
Councilman O'Connor.
Here.
Somebody might like to make a motion to suspend public speaking. In a second.
I'll make a motion. We exclude public speaking for this month.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Approved. Somebody want to make a motion to approve the pending minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the pending minutes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
A while back, we sent letters to get Edie Road and Loudon Road, the speed limits dropped, but the state did not agree with us. If you got a letter on that, Brian, mine's in the office.
I have it.
I don't have it in front of me, no.
I do. So for Loudon Road, they said currently the section of Loudon Road is governed by 45 miles an hour, established by our office in 1987, and that is the Department of Transportation. We conducted a review of the speed limit in 1995 and determined a reduction was not warranted. In response to your most recent request, we reviewed this corridor for a speed limit reduction. Included in our study, we collected radar measurements of traffic speeds in 2 locations. The data found 85 percentile speeds to be 51 miles per hour and 48 miles per hour, with 45 and 31% of motorists exceeding the existing speed limit respectively. Under these conditions, we recommend enforcement of the existing speed limit rather than a reduction of the regulatory speed limit. By way of this letter, we will notify the state police and the Saratoga County Sheriff's Department of our findings for whatever action that may deem appropriate, and that is Loudon Road. And then another for Edie Road. Currently, the requested section of Edie Road between Ballard and Route 50 is governed by the statewide 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. We reviewed the road in 1999 and determined that the existing speed limit should not be lowered. As per your more recent request, we again reviewed this road for a speed limit reduction. And based on our investigation, we have once again determined that the existing speed limit is appropriate for the conditions experienced through this corridor, and a reduction of the speed is not warranted at this time.
Sue, I was the one, before I joined the town board, I was the one who sent the letter on behalf of a lot of the residents here on Edie Road.
Yes.
In DOT's other letter about Loudon Road, they made mention of, they set up points at which they check speeds and how many people were under and over the speed limit, but made no reference to any of that for Edie Road. Do we know if they actually did anything beyond 1999?
I do not know, and it does not say that they did. I mean, other than apologizing for their extended length of time it took them to respond, there was really nothing more to this.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, because of what's going on in the town, the county, and our finances, I think right now we're in pretty good shape, but in 2 months, we'll know a lot more. And I'd like to see a town-wide, every department, hiring freeze for the time being. And how y'all feel, but we need a motion and a second on that.
I couldn't hear the last part of it, John.
I'd like to see, I said, like, our finances, we don't know. I think right now we're in good shape, but in 2 months, we might not know. Until we find out what's going on, I'd like to see a town hiring freeze for all departments.
I'll make a motion, we accept that, a town hiring freeze.
The second,
I'll second that motion, as long as we leave ourselves open to, absolutely essential personnel.
right.
Right, I would like it to be just discretionary. Let's say hypothetically, Ryan gets a really great offer and he goes someplace else.
We ain't going nowhere.
But, again, a blanket policy, I'm not really in favor of, but I definitely would like a hiring freeze with discretion to be able to review if we need or need not to fill an item.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
What would be our discretion anyhow to hire?
Right. I mean, right now, I don't feel we need to be hiring because we obviously do not know what our budget's going to look like on the end of this. But just in case something we absolutely have to have, I would hate to say, we're going against our own policy.
Yep, I agree.
All in
So-
favor?
Question?
All right.
Question?
Yes.
I'm not, as legal counsel, I'm not sure I'm understanding if the motion is for a hiring freeze and and it's been seconded, and if you're gonna vote affirmatively on that, that's not necessarily gonna afford the same discretion that at least 2 town board members just indicated they would wish to have. So I think
Should
that,
just be a hiring freeze. It should just be a hiring freeze.
well, or keep the discretion and don't adopt a hiring freeze. One of you, I can't remember which one, pointed out that you have discretion to hire or not hire all the time anyway.
Right, that's,
So it might have been you, John. So my concern is that I understand the desire for that discretion. That seems very rational and appropriate to me. I'm concerned about a motion that's approved, adopting a hiring freeze, and then you want to exercise your discretion and hire somebody, and then be subject to a possible claim that, wait a minute, you can't hire anybody because you adopted a resolution imposing a hiring freeze. That's my concern.
and again, if to hire somebody, they would need town board approval anyhow. So it would come before this board, and if we feel that we have a warrant to hire somebody, then the 5 of us make that decision.
Yeah, I would say if, an emergency.
We'd have to call an emergency meeting anyhow.
Well, like, let's say we need Joe Blow retires, we want to backfill his spot. No. But if a intricate, like an assessor or building inspector or somebody who's key to operations decides to retire or move on, we will be needing to do that to replace them. Then we would be forced to go that. So a blanket policy on a hiring freeze might put us in a bind, but I would definitely support not hiring any routine or backfilled items. But a blanket hiring freeze may put us in a jam. I don't think it will, but I don't want to have that come up. Personally.
Right. So Dwayne just restated my concern as well.
What if we were to just agree to notify town staff that only essential positions will be filled or refilled, given the circumstances with the lack of knowledge of what's going to be happening, in terms of the town finances.
Right. We'll review every applicant, and we as a board will determine whether it's a need or a want.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
So from my standpoint, that's a very appropriate policy if that's the will of the board. That would not require, nor would it necessarily be appropriate to be part of a formal motion or resolution.
That's pretty much what we have right now.
Agreed.
We have that discretion now. Nobody can
Agreed.
hire without town board approval, so.
Mhm.
And if somebody was to retire, where's Ryan? Which I doubt it, but then at least the 5 of us could rehire an engineer. Do you still want to go forward with that motion, Supervisor?
I would just like to have a hiring freeze. We'll worry about it if something happens next month.
Well, we have that authority now to freeze it. We just don't hire nobody.
All right.
There's nobody else no other person in the town has the authority to hire anyhow.
What's our
Except for us.
motion right now? What's our motion, Mark?
We
Hiring
might ask,
freeze.
we might ask Sue, but my recollection is the motion was to adopt a hiring freeze.
It was, except for essential and discretionary.
Everybody in
employees.
favor of that?
All right, so we
All
are.
in favor of that?
All right, let me clarify. We're instituting a hiring freeze, but the only people that could possibly be hired is ones with board approval and review. Right?
Which is what we have now.
Which is what we have now.
Right, so from my standpoint as counsel, that's not a hiring freeze.
Yeah, that's why I said, should we just, instead of a formal freeze, just notify all the departments that the town board would only be willing to entertain filling vacancies for essential personnel.
Which I think would be a town board initiation anyways, because
Sure.
like, let's say hypothetically Ryan retires, we would initiate the pursue and backfilling of his item. But for a routine position, we're not going to entertain those. Well, that's a twisted, complex motion.
Good luck, Sue.
Okay.
So is that motion got to be made, Mark, or,
That would not require a resolution.
okay, move on, then you're saying?
That is a true statement.
Move
Yeah,
on.
if you what Ray said, and then Dwayne followed up with as a policy is a perfect appropriate policy. You can so notify department heads as you wish, but that does not require a formal motion or a formal resolution.
All right, we're all set.
And yeah, that should be mentioned. And also, just so it's clear, Kurt will be able to fill a vacancy under his elected position. A vacancy, yes.
Yeah, but a routine vacancy I will not support because I am supporting a hiring reduction.
I'm just stating, because Kurt is an elected official, if he has a vacancy, he will be able to.
Propose it. He can propose it, but we do
Okay.
not have to approve it. Correct, Mark?
Actually, some of the highway department positions, the highway superintendent actually has the right under law to fill himself. The practice is for you all to, he does it only subject to your approval, and that's a very healthy practice in my opinion. At least as long as I've been around, you've never had a fight about that. But if push came to shove, the highway superintendent does have a certain amount of discretion to fill some of the spots himself
If it's
without
vacant.
town board approval.
But we don't have to pay him.
No, that's the other part. If it's
Money
funded,
comes from us.
if the funds are in his budget, he won't need us.
Yeah, that's what John McCaffrey's saying, and that's largely correct. But again, the practice has been, and it's a very healthy practice, that our highway superintendent has always sought the consent and approval of the town board in filling the spots. I imagine he would keep doing that. It's not a fight you want to fight, because Councilman McCaffrey is correct. If it's in the highway department's budget already, the highway superintendent would have an amount of discretion to make that hire without town board approval.
Yeah, there's no stopping him. So I think if we just keep Kurt on board, that we'd like to have everything go through us, that'd be great. But we just can't force it.
Don't tell
He knows now.
him.
So we're all set?
Mhm.
Going on
Yes,
to number
sir.
6.
Yes, I'd like to move on to 6.
Steve Gordon as our emergency service coordinator. The effective of, He resigned effective 4/22/20. I'd like to see somebody make a motion to accept that. Second,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'd just like to say Steve did do a heck of a job for us. And when I found out, I contacted Robert Williams. I worked with him for over 25 years in the fire department. He was a captain. He retired as the chief of the Saratoga Springs Fire Department. And I think he would be one heck of an appointment and will bring that department up to its next level. John knows him, Dwayne knows him. So I'd like to see a motion to appoint him.
I'll make the motion to appoint Robert Williams as our emergency services coordinator.
I'll second it.
Effective today.
Sure.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We have the draft annual MS4 stormwater report. You want to talk about that, Ryan?
Yeah, this is just an announcement to state that the annual stormwater report that the town of Wilton produces and sends to DEC is available for review if anybody so chooses to look through that. Just contact me.
Thank you.
All right, number 9, we have a Palmertown agreement with the trail. That just gives them the okay to connect from town to town. Ray, or
Yeah.
you want to talk about it? You're both involved with that.
Yeah, it's a multi-municipal agreement, or project, I should say, that runs from Monroe through Corinth, Wilton, Greenfield, Saratoga Springs, that would make an interconnected trail that would go from the Monroe Lake State Park all the way down to Spa State Park. The resolution does not bind the town of Wilton to any particular commitment, funding, anything of that sort, but it just says, along with the other communities, that we'd like to work together and cooperate on creating this trail. Ryan is on this committee as well as I, as well as folks from all the other communities and folks from Saratoga Plan, the Open Space Institute, and we're still, to a certain extent, in our infancy of actually mapping out this trail, acquiring the properties that would be necessary to complete the project, and we're just looking for communities through which this trail could eventually go to give their support to the project.
I have a question. Mark, have you reviewed this contract at all?
Sir,
I
yes,
believe it's-
sir.
Is it a contract or an agreement?
It's really the latter. Councilman O'Connor has appropriately described it. It does not really constitute any binding obligation of any expenditure of funds or any firm and binding commitment, in fact, to do anything other than cooperate with the various sibling municipalities and organizations that Councilman O'Connor mentioned in furtherance of some common goals, but there's no obligation. So it's really more of an agreement than a contract, and I don't think it exposes us to any commitments or obligations.
So, in your opinion, so we're good with that? It looks good to you then?
I have, from legal counsel standpoint, no problems whatsoever.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Somebody want to make a motion, sign the agreement in a second?
I'll make the
I'll make a-
motion, we sign it, or second it, whatever.
Second, Ray?
Yep.
All in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Any noes? Passed.
Thank you, everybody.
Is there any committee reports?
I just have a little bit on the courthouse. Speaking to the project manager today, he said we are about 90% done with everything. Obviously, because of the societal predicament we are in, he is able to go through and work without any staff in the way, which has put us months ahead of time. He feels at this time we are 90% complete. He has some stuff he needs to button up and everything, but once restrictions start lifting and court resumes, the court building should be fully functional. And I believe Maria can correct me, We are under budget as far as the initial estimate that was going to cost us. So we are, as I said, we're hoping to be done in another month or month and a half. That's my only committee report.
I'd like to thank Kirk and the Highway Department. They did a real nice job doing all that pickup of that debris. It looks like, I think it's all done, just about. Anybody else got anything to say?
I do. Margot submitted a report for Wilton Wildlife Reserve and Park, and I will have that up on the website tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank everybody for participating today at Gavin Park. I think it was a great hit. And I commend everybody that showed up, the fire departments, the ambulance squad, and of course the council. It was great.
I talked with Robin at the senior center too. She said things are actually going fairly well. She's still delivering lunches. Donations have been great. She said she didn't need anything. I'll keep checking in with her and let everybody know as I find out. But she's doing a great job.
Sue said somebody left 3 gift cards for 100 apiece and gave it to Robin.
That's awesome.
Yes.
All right, I got something to bring up. I just want you to know I'm very honored and pleased to announce this one, that one of our own has been honored. I got a letter from the New York State Town Clerks Association. Our town clerk is being honored for her great job with the association to make it better. She's been honored with a great job she does for the town of Wilton. The great job her staff does, and that's because of her great leadership abilities. You know, I'm at that office every day, and I can honestly say Sue gives the town residents 120% every day. I just like to congratulate you. And from myself, and I think the rest of the board members feel, we are so happy that you are our town clerk.
Oh, thank you.
Yay.
Took us long enough to realize what we already know.
Now you get to write notes about yourself.
I couldn't do it without my staff, and I have to say, this week, for the past
And your
week,
rod, and your rod.
yeah,
Rod and your staff.
I'm there every day,
Yep.
either Julie or Sue.
Yep.
They bring the mask out, the sanitizer, the horn beeps. I'm so
Yep.
proud of them. And
no, and Julie has been awesome. Just-
everybody.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you know,
thank
I've learned one thing since I've been the town supervisor. I might have missed one day going up there. And all our town employees, many of that building, they all give 120%. And when this virus come out, everybody has stepped up above and beyond their job duties. They give the town 120%. Every town employee I'm talking about. And it makes me very proud to be the supervisor of this great town of Wilton. We've got a great bunch of people. I'm sorry we can't get you a little raise, but
It's all good.
How about a pair of glasses?
oh, 2 of them. Mrs. Moran, you want to give your controller's report?
Hi, the first item is a budget transfer, and it is simply to fund the temporary bookkeeper's payroll for the month of April. I want to thank Supervisor Lant and the entire board for allowing me to have a temporary person to fill a gap during a very busy time. Very important that that position carried on, and it did. Thank you to Pat, too. So that's taking money from an existing appropriation, and it's putting it into the bookkeeper's position. So that's the only budget transfer that I have. The other items, 2 through 6, are actually budget amendments. So I'd appreciate it if we could do a vote on item 1 first.
I'll make a a motion that we transfer or pay the amount for the temporary bookkeeper that assisted with, during this time with the absence of our regular bookkeeper.
Have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? Pass.
Thank you. Items 2 through 6 are to take activity off of our budget. Back in November, the board passed a budget that included our typical activities such as the summer camp and Park Fest. Unfortunately, because of the COVID situation that we're in right now, the board had to make the very tough decision, but very good and wise decision to limit these type of activities. So all we're doing in items 2 through 6 is we're amending the budget to take that activity off. So we're
Make a
removing.
motion.
Back at,
I'll make a motion to
Just
take those items out.
Second?
Just one question. Where
Yes.
the money goes back into general fund, or does it go back into our reserves?
it stays in the general fund.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're taking off the expenses and we're taking off the revenue. We're shrinking the budget. So we're offsetting. Since the summer camp is planned to run on something of a deficit, the benefit is that we're able to reduce the expected sales tax. So we're reducing the budget both in summer camp revenue and in anticipated sales tax. It's an unfortunate benefit, but it's a benefit nonetheless. It helps us get to where we need to be.
All right. Hopefully it offsets it.
Right.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Noes?
Thank you.
Pass.
The second item on the report is related to sales tax, and just as a very high informational conversation. The first item is the estimates for the sales tax decreases have been shared with us by the county. The New York State Association of Counties has provided some estimates. They provided projections that included a mild and a severe recession and the impact on sales tax. We were looking at, according to that projection that was done about a few weeks ago, a 4.5% and 13% roughly decline in the sales tax for the mild and the severe recession respectively. This is just, kind of to open up our conversation. Ray has already asked questions about, what kinds of projects do we have and what can we possibly look at perhaps eliminating from our budget to help us with our quest to, revise our sales tax figure. I think that's a great start. What we can do now, obviously, is what we just did by looking at different items and seeing what we can do with our sales tax in the current period to help our current budget. But we also do have to look at our long-term situation because this is a situation that's going to impact us for a couple of years. And we have no idea, even though NISAC was very generous by giving us some economic assumptions and details in terms of what may happen. This is such a fluid situation that we just don't know. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen. So we have to always look toward what we can do to save the town money. So it's going to be a constant ongoing process. And so I appreciate your support in advance in trying to figure out how we can best get this done.
Maria, was NISAC's numbers done county by county, or this is an estimate statewide?
This was county by county. So Saratoga County was given their estimates of 4% and 13%, respectively, for the mild and the severe. But it's applied to the county as a whole, and the trickle down to each one of the towns was a general broad stroke. So without knowing the detail of, what kind of vendors do we have, who's open, who's closed, we can't get to that granular level of detail for the town of Wilton specifically. It's kind of an estimate for the county.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine that we're not going to be on the more severe end of that estimate.
Yep, I agree.
And maybe even
I agree.
beyond there.
That's exactly right. And the report that was released did say exactly that worst case scenario may very well not be the worst case.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to buckle up, buckle down, and figure this out.
Do you
Yeah.
have a rough estimate of what the 4.5 or the 13% would impact on our budget?
Yes, the
13% is the one that stuck out in my memory as $1 million. So $1 million decrease in sales tax for this year. Yes, our budget is $8 million. But let me also preface this conversation, well, not preface, but end it hopefully with this thought, is that the town is coming from a very strong position. We have had years of great conservative spending and budgeting, and we have a fund balance that can help to sustain us. Not a lot of towns can say that. We don't have a town tax. We don't have to worry about the impact on the residents in terms of a tax. Right now, as long as we continue to be conservative with our spending, I think we can weather this storm.
So again, this
we
year,
have no
we're
town
looking at-
debt right now,
I'm sorry?
and we have no town debt.
Correct, there is no town tax.
Debt, debt.
this
Town
year, this year we're looking at $1 million deficit in our current budget.
In the current year, yes.
So the one that we've already budgeted for, we're looking like we're all right.
Yes,
And then we need to work on projecting next year then. Before
Correct.
we craft our next budget then.
that is correct.
Okay.
Home Depot on the weekend. I think we're in good shape.
Yeah,
Home Depot and Price Chopper, I would hope would keep us afloat.
right. And
Walmart.
actually, I did speak to somebody for informational purposes. It started out as a sales pitch on his end, and I said, just to let you know, we're not spending any money, but I would really like to find out about your product. It is a geofence that is already in play around the town of Wilton. And what it does is it measures the level of activity in each one of these areas in our retail district. So we can estimate better for the town of Wilton specifically what's happening in our sales tax on a day-by-day basis. We can analyze what's happening. I think it's a better tool for the county, not for the town. I did find out about the expense. It's just beyond what we would ever entertain paying. But at the same time, I think that forecasting, especially if we can get some information from the county, would be a great tool to help us to say, how much do we expect to get? Right now, we're in the position of finding information from the county when we get that check every month. So by the 22nd of the month, we get our sales tax. Actually, it's an ACH wire with an explanation of what happened during the month, and it's a very useful analytic, but it's already based on the past 2 months. So it's older information. It would be great to be able to forecast into the future and see what's going to happen in the future. So I'm looking perhaps to form some alliances with people in the county that we can talk with to see if they have any ideas in terms of better forecasting.
And sales tax reform on internet sales.
I know the county's behind that. That's a state decision. That's unfortunately out of the county's hands too.
Yeah, because everybody's transitioned to in-hand purchases to online purchases. And unfortunately, that legislation has not been signed the last 3 or 4 years, which would benefit us and every other small town in the county.
Right, right.
Maria was kind enough to put together a list of capital projects that are in the budget for this year. If that's for me, I'm in a meeting.
Hi, Ray.
I'm not sure if the list was shared with anybody else, but just like Supervisor Lamp was talking before about hiring and looking at those positions, very closely. I would say the same thing with capital projects that we have budgeted for this year. If there are things that can be postponed.
Yeah,
until,
we've looked at, there's a few things we are gonna cut out. I don't think that's right now.
Maria, in your estimate, let's say we're going to be $1 million short this year. We're probably going to be $1 million short next year or more? And
that's
can we make that up someplace?
That's an
without
excellent question.
affecting?
Right. We don't know what's going to happen if and when, hopefully sooner rather than later, the economy opens up. I don't know what consumer behavior is going to do. Predictive analytics might say, there's going to be this pent-up desire for people to go out and spend money, go out to do recreational things, go out to spend money, going out to dinner. And then again, some people might say, let's wait and see what happens until this, supposed second wave comes in September. And so to your point, we don't know. It's true. We just don't know. It would $1 million this year. It could be the same next year.
I mean, so in a sense, we really have to pare our budget down to essentials.
That is correct.
No big ticket items like plow trucks, sorry, Kirk, plow trucks and
We don't have any on the budget.
yeah, but I'm just saying, we need to pare down big ticket items and be
Well,
conservative for next year.
Right. Correct. I think that
agree
is
with
that is the safe thing to do.
Yeah, we need to do that.
I remember one thing, we have a very, very frugal board. We have a very, very, very frugal controller, so we're all
CPA, cheapest person alive.
My biggest concern is, I know the city of Saratoga is looking at reduction in staff and personnel. I really, really, really do not want to get to that point in Wilton. I obviously we have a nice cushion, but I really do not want to interfere with the services that we provide.
Even a cushion wears out.
Correct. And we don't really know how long this it affected us this year, maybe next year, the year after.
I'm expecting a V. I'm not looking for a U, I'm looking for a V.
Yeah, and hopefully our town heads and elected town heads can get on board and be conservative for the next year's budget.
Agreed.
well.
Thank
Once
you.
again, Sue, thank you for making the town look good. I will give you all a copy of this nice letter she received, that I received, and it will be on our Facebook.
Maria, do you have number 3 on your board?
I do. I do have one more item. Thank you, Dwayne. So just as a follow-up to a couple of months ago, when I told you that I had completed the review for the Wilton Emergency Squad, the service points award listing was posted for the 30-day requirement. There were no changes, so I just wanted to informally let you know that the PenFlex data package has been mailed. And the next step is we'll get the bill from PenFlex, who is the actuary for the town's contribution to the service participants' pension.
I guess we got to start cutting someplace. No, absolutely. These are
Maple Avenue never wanted.
these guys are in the homes of the C-19 right now.
Right.
And I as a volunteer EMT have a lovely luxury of not having to respond. These guys are paid to go into the C-19 homes and treat the patients. So absolutely, we need to support these guys and definitely thank them on the end.
Yeah, they have been very supportive to us too, as a matter of fact, and not to take away from you, Supervisor, if you want to add something, but just overall, the Wilton Emergency Squad has been extremely supportive to the town.
Oh, absolutely.
I was talking to a couple of the squad members at the park today and told them that when I did my first stint on the town board is when we created the tax district to support the squad. And I said, since that time, which I think was back in the late 1980s, me, my wife, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law, and my son have been carted to the hospital by those guys. So I think it was the smartest legislative decision I ever made way back in the day.
Sounds like your family should join a health club.
No, you know, it's because we don't behave ourselves.
Climbing all them mountains.
Yeah.
Drinking coffee too late at night.
And I'd like to thank all the town residents for being patient with us. We will get through this. We will be stronger. We want to make a motion to end the meeting? Or you got anything to say? We'll listen.
Yeah, I just want to say one last thing. I said this at the park this morning. If there was a time in this town's history where it was lucky to have 3 emergency services people on the board, this is the time. You know, the experience and the background that, you know, John and Dwayne have is incalculably valuable during this time period. So I, for one town resident, am glad that you guys are on board.
Thank you.
Thank
Ray.
you.
Thank you.
I'll make that motion to dismiss after that.
Oh,
And now I gotta worry about trying to put my helmet on.
last in, first out, right?
Second. Second.
Second,
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
I'll second.
And be safe.
second, Joe.
Thank
Thank you. Be
safe.
well.
God bless.
Have a good one, Mark.
Good night,
You all
everybody.
too. Thanks a lot. Have a good night. Everybody be safe.
Ryan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye,
Bye,
Aaron.
everybody.
See you, John. Bye,
Bye-bye.
Aaron.
Good night.
Congratulations, Sue. Oh,
See you,
thank you.
Travis.